for all the intro to ed students, year 1 and year 2. So,
Good job.
thanks for coming in.
Yeah, good to be.
So Jeff, what does a student engagement coach do?
I think that, like, that's really my favorite question. I get the question all the time, what do you do? And I think that's such a great opportunity to, like, figure that out with somebody, right? Because I do a lot of different things. So my role is focused on historically underserved youth in the school. And that means that I'm working with primarily Black and brown students around issues around navigating in the school, and that can mean things as simple as how do you get connected to a club, or how do you find some place that you feel connected. If there's an issue maybe with a teacher, sitting down and talking through that issue with the teacher, figuring out how to get connected to homework support, multiple different things and services within the building. So my job is to really help, like, engagement, and then working on student voice. So I'm lucky enough to be in a position where I get to spend time with students in different emotionally specific groups, and work with them on their voice. What do they want to see the school look like? What is their perspective in centering what they want here at the school, and trying to figure out how do we do something that you want to do, versus kind of just doing whatever the school is doing.
Good morning.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I wanted to ask, how long has this position of student engagement coach existed within PPS? Is it a new idea, or like, what's happening there?
So 5 years ago, Chris Williams, we had an equity department previously in this district, and the equity department, there was a focus on historically underserved youth and trying to figure out what kind of positions would be most supportive. So my supervisor, his name is Chris Williams. He started and was the first student engagement coach 5 years ago, and he came on as just a pilot. So it was just one position. He came in and went to 3 different schools, and his job would be to run groups, work with students and teachers around equity issues, and just support those schools as best he could. And so that was 5 years ago. After 1 year of that program, 2 additional positions started. So now there are 3 student engagement coaches. And then this last year, I came in and added to the team. So there's 4 of us now currently in the district.
So you weren't a student engagement coach last year?
No. Yeah, so one of the fun things about PPS and education in general, like when you say something like that, is that our position titles change all the time. I've been in the district 4 or 5 years, and within that 5 years within the district, my title has changed 4 times. So student engagement coach is new, and the reason why it changed this time is because the equity department went away. So they decided that there wouldn't be a department called equity because it's embedded right inside of the school, or it should be embedded inside of every school. So when they removed the equity department, then we moved over to student services, which is basically what we do, navigating and getting connected to services. And when we changed to a different department, that's when the titles changed.
So what are the titles you have?
Oh my goodness. So,
And what do each of these titles mean?
yeah, you know, that's the fun part though. We can talk, so they don't really mean what you think they mean, right? So I started off as an attendance analyst. And that job was a lot of systems work. When I first came to Madison, my job was to look at attendance systems and support what attendance looked like. And even though analyst was the name of the position, the majority of the time that I spent was organizing meetings. So a SART meeting, which is our attendance meeting, where we talk about students and how we're going to support them here at the school. And then I just case managed around 60 or 70 students. And that was how it started. So the analyst part of it really wasn't there. It was just a title. And then that changed to student attendance coach. Because of that, I think that the analyst piece, they shifted our titles because of the pay scale. So they had to shift our titles to fit. They did an evaluation of different titles to see if we were matching up with different districts, and that title didn't match up with different districts, so they're like, we're going to do a different one. So then it became a student attendance coach. And then the one I had last year for only for like 3 or 4 months was a student assistance coordinator. That was before student engagement coach. So those are the 4 titles I've had. And honestly, the work has been very similar through all 4 of those titles. So the title really hasn't made any difference. It's more just for the district's purposes is what I feel like. They just are trying to categorize things.
And is RJ part of the equity department? Because I noticed like Carson, RJ people became a thing 5 years ago, and you said that you taught them to have it 5 years ago. So
Yeah, they are not connected to each other. Nope, they're different. Although I do RJ mediations regularly between students and staff, and between students and students. That's a part of my job. But that's just because my own training was in RJ, and I spent time over the last 4 years in multiple RJ trainings in order to build my skill set up, because this is an RJ school. I work closely with Nyanga, for those of you who remember Nyanga when he was here. I spent a lot of time with him, and we worked together around doing RJ circles in different spaces for different students. And so for me, that was a really great experience. And it opened up a lot of different things for myself professionally, as far as saying, you know, if we're going to be an RJ school, then we need to be able to practice this and do these things with some fidelity, you know, do it well. So I definitely, RJ is a part of my job currently, but they are not connected to each other, even though the timeline is the same.
what are the
Does anyone else want to go? Okay. As a student engagement coach, not a teacher, do you believe that teachers or almost all the staff should know how to do RJ methods?
Absolutely. I believe that, and I think that that's a capacity building thing where people are in different spaces. But I do think that all staff members should have working knowledge and understanding of how to do RJ within the school. And understand what the roles are and how to connect to supports and utilize them. Because if we are an RJ school, we get this thing at the district where when I talk to people who aren't here, they're like, oh, Madison's the RJ school. You know, you guys are doing this. And I really struggled with that last year for a lot of reasons. Obviously because we lost an RJ coordinator last year. Didn't have that position here. There wasn't as much RJ going on, and a lot of the RJ work fell to students, which was pretty hard. You know, like, I think it's not fair within the system that we're saying that this is what we do, and yet that work then falls down to students to do, and the staff maybe aren't where they need to be. And that's not like a judgment of the staff. There's plenty of staff here who are deeply involved and believe in RJ work, but there was a gap last year that was pretty obvious related to how we were practicing.
Did you have any difficulties or resistance from teachers in the school about RJ?
Yeah, there's been some harder conversations around it. I think that anything that innately says that me and you are equal, right? We're equal. All of us are equal in this situation. That is counter to the idea of power that we're in this space. And so I think sometimes people have thoughts and have come up certain ways, and they believe that the authority really sits with adults in this building. I don't believe that. You know, I think that essentially what makes this job work for me and why I love it so much is that I see us as equals. And I often see all of you as people first, not as students. Student is a part of your identity, but you're a person first. And you have a series of experiences and things that you've brought to the school, and those are the things that are really valuable. What are your experiences? Who are you? How does that come out here? And I think that challenges authority. That makes it harder. And I don't think that's been a negative thing, too. I want to make sure that I say that. I think it's positive that we have a dialogue around that resistance, and where is that coming from? In my position, I've had to get a lot better around having those conversations in a productive way, right? Like you don't want to just butt heads and conflict and then nothing happens. That doesn't help anybody. So really it's more about like trying to talk about where is that really coming from, where is that resistance at, seeing if there's a way that we can find common ground to understand why it's important for RJ to work well here.
Who here was researching bell hooks? Who wrote their historical mixed article?
Maddie.
Maddie did? Yeah, I know a lot of you pulled that out as the name you were really interested in. What you just said, Jeff, reminded me a lot. There's that emphasis around quality and that relationship between students.
What are the pros and cons of working at Madison?
The pros are that I'm here full time. I've been bouncing between 2 different schools, so I usually, the last 3 years have been either at Harrison Park or Roosevelt 2 days a week. So I would leave and go to a different school for 2 days, and then I would come back here. That was a major con in the job for a long period of time, so I think it's a big pro this year to be able to be here full time. My pros are that, like, y'all are amazing. There are so many young folks here who have amazing ideas and stories and ways of really changing our world and making it a better place. And I get to hear those. I get to be in spaces with people that are inspired around their identity and their culture, and that being centered in saying that, you know, this is what's coming up for me. So that's really powerful to be in spaces where students are owning who they are, because I believe that's transformative. So I feel like that's a huge pro to be in being culturally specific spaces. So like many times, like even yesterday, like, I mean, the room was full of our Muslim students yesterday for the second half of the day, and lots of stories, funny jokes. People feel like they can be themselves, right? Would you agree with that, Stella? Yeah, and it's just a really great space in the sense of people feeling like they can just be themselves and they don't have to, like, I don't know, like my experience when I have conversations with students, so one of the cons is, like I get in these conversations and students have all this stuff that's going on in their lives and they feel like they have to come in here and act like none of that is happening just in order to get by, right? Like you've got some family issues or you have these things that are happening that are difficult, but you can't show any of that. And so when students are in a space where they've gotten caught up for a minute and they're just really going through some heavier stuff and they feel like they can't do anything about it, and then they're not doing well in their classes because they're struggling, then all that bubbles up. And like for me, a con is that we sometimes don't do a good job of connecting and saying, hey, we really value you. You're actually, all of you is welcome here. Whatever's going on, you're welcome to bring that into the school and we can figure that out together. I say that as a con just in a sense because I don't think we are as good at it as we could be as a team, right? Like, and I think that's a process. I also think Madison's wonderful and that there's a lot of beautiful connections here that mean a lot. And so it's a little bit of both for me, but I think we're growing and I see a lot of growth, and I'm really thankful that I'm in a space where people are growing and connecting more and valuing relationship more. That's what I see that's happening at least.
You feel like you learn a lot from the students, I imagine.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I learn more from y'all than you learn from me. That's a definite. I mean, there's no way that I can't even describe how much I learn all the time. And I mean that means language, culture, different aspects. As a white man, like I racialize things all the time, right? Like I'm a white man in a space where I get to work with a very diverse group of students, and for me, like that, it becomes really important that I am learning about different cultural ideas, that I am spending time allowing students to be in spaces where they center that, because traditionally what happens with whiteness is white people kind of take authority and they're like, this is what, you know, this is the way things are, this is how this needs to be, and it's oppressive. And so like I have to be aware of my privilege and the nature of that, and the way that I really am able to do that is by learning from students around what's going on and not putting myself in the center of that space, but really like when students are centered, when y'all are centered in there and you're being your true selves, then you're teaching me all kinds of things that are going on in your lives and what's culturally important to you. So find a lot of value